And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guests are Kosta, Makreas, and Hollis Polk. Kosta founded the People's Disclosure Movement, which empowers everyday people to interact directly with ET star beings. Hollis is a clairvoyant, master practitioner of neurolinguistics and certified hypnotherapist who has a bachelor's degree in engineering from Princeton and MBA from Harvard. It's very impressive. Guys, welcome and thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, Jeff. It's an honor.
Well, it's great to see a couple that are both into ETs. So how did you guys meet each other, and what's the background of your story?
We can tell you the story on a personal level of how we met. We won't draw that one out, but it's not very unusual these days. But back in 1997, when we did meet, it was not a thing yet. We met on Match.com, just looking for love in all the right places.
Yeah.
And there's a long story of on that road, how we got together, but eventually we did, and we got married.
And here we still are.
And here we still are 25 years later.
That's great. There's a dating site out now called ParanormalDate.com.
No.
I hear it
I'm not
being
surprised.
Yeah, I hear it being advertised on Coast to Coast AM, and I think the advertisements are like, yeah, I'm into ETs. I wish I could find somebody or something.
Aw.
I think that's really sweet.
It
Yeah.
is.
And probably a good business model. There's a lot of, I think there's a call for that out there. Back in the day with Match.com, you could make a profile like you do many places, and it was there that you would have to tell your story, where you could say, I'm interested in ET. I was saying I'm interested in someone who is into the paranormal, meditation, topics like that. And you could also filter, like you can today, for people like that. I want a non-smoker, someone who likes kids, whatever. And just went through that kind of normal process, but said all the keywords that
Well, you
probably
found me.
That's
Back
true.
then, everything was by email.
Yeah.
And so you'd get an email every morning with the people you matched with, and he wrote to me. But my profile said I'm clairvoyant, clairaudient, and I'm a telepath. And if we spend any amount of time together, I will eventually read your mind. Because I wanted to be upfront about it, right? Like, because if somebody wasn't okay with that, I wasn't interested, right? That wasn't going to last. So anyway.
The funny part is when she responded and said those things, I liked everything I heard. I'm a telepath, clairvoyant. I go, yeah. Then she goes, I will eventually read your mind. I'm going, what guy wants the woman to read his mind? Like, I know where your thoughts went. No, it wasn't me. But years later now, part of it is that we've been together a long time, but I'm telling you, there's so many instances where we're on another topic and I opened my mouth and she was just ready to say the same thing, kind of off topic, over and over again. So we're picking up, it's mutual.
And I honestly am not sure a lot of the time, well, some of the time, whose thought it was originally, or if it was something that originated between the two of us or from somebody that we're both connected to. Like, I genuinely sometimes don't know, often don't know.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, did I think of that, or was he thinking of that?
Right, and you can't, because it's simultaneous and you can't tell. But again, telepathy is one of those things. There's no time and space, so...
Were you both already into the ET phenomena back then?
Not really. And we like to tell our origin story, so we'll do that for the sake of your audience, because I'd like to say that everyone has some kind of origin story with this particular topic. And here's ours. From my part, just a little bit of a background. I was born in the American Midwest a long time ago. My youth was in the 60s and the 70s, and I was interested in space travel, in science fiction, in astronomy, the space program of the day, etc. So my eyes were already on the stars, and that's the foundation of where I am today. along the way, I picked up a book, my very first book on UFOs, whose title I've forgotten, but I think it was written by one of the contactees of the late 40s and 50s, the contactee movement that happened here in the US. And it had pictures of the classic dome-shaped or saucer-shaped with a dome on top objects. And I was smitten right away, thinking, this is cool. I really believe they're here. But I didn't do much with it. I led what I call after that a conventional life. I went to university, got a degree in computer science and mathematics, eventually came out to California here in the San Francisco Bay Area and went to work in the Silicon Valley as an independent software consultant. So I did the left brain technical thing, which I loved and I still love. But in 2006, I Googled UFO, and try that sometime. You'll get 40 million hits. But I happened to discover people who, near our home in Mount Shasta in Northern California, were learning this Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind protocols, CE5, and meditating, visualizing to call in the occupants of these craft. And I thought, this is really cool. My interest in this topic just resurged at that point. I wanted to go spend a week with a group of people like this to learn these methods to make your own kind of contact. And I asked Hollis if she would, come and join me for that week, because I thought this was something kind of unique that nobody expected. And this is where she had a response to that.
No.
No. Wow.
No, but I should back up and say, as a little kid, I was fascinated by the space program. I had like scrapbooks of newspaper clippings about NASA. And I mean, I was a little kid. I was not interested in extraterrestrials. I wasn't interested in astronomy, astrology, like none of that. My dad did give me Chariots of the Gods when I was about 10 to read. So I, had some evidence. And then Kosta had sent away for some DVDs that all had interviews of military people being interviewed about their experiences with extraterrestrial craft. This stuff we're talking about now, the Tic Tac and, all that stuff. And so I had seen enough to believe it was real. That, there wasn't any question in my mind, but like what I said to him is, it's not part of my life. I got a business to run. Go have a good time.
And I did. I spent a week, 6 days and nights with a group of 40 people up in Mount Shasta, night after night, making contact. And we were successful. This was something new and exciting. We were seeing zigzagging lights in the sky, flashing with the lights we were flashing back at us in sequence, seeing orbs in the trees, people getting touched on the shoulder by star people when no one else was there, and on was happening night after night. That changed my life. And that's why we're having this conversation today. But here's the rub, where I was calling Hollis back home every morning, telling her what I had seen the night before, because again, it was new and exciting. And I was like a fifth grader. You're not going to believe this. We saw this and that. And then military jets, fighter jets came chasing this thing, all true. About the fourth morning when I called her and was getting ready to start telling her what had happened the night before, she stopped me and said, wait a minute, I've got something to tell you. And I'm going, what could be more interesting than what I have? Well, it was. Yeah.
So I was sitting in bed reading the night before, and it's time to go to bed. So close up the book, put it on the nightstand, turn out the light, and turn down okay, I should back up and say I have very, very good night vision. For no reason, but I just have very good night vision. I've always had it. So I turn around to face the foot of the bed to kind of scooch down and go to sleep. And as I turn around, my eyes adjust to the dark, and there are 4 little translucent white beings standing around the foot of the bed looking at me, with maybe a 5th less material one kind of behind them. They have large heads, skinny necks, narrow shoulders, narrow torsos. I assume they had legs, but I don't know because they're standing around the foot of the bed, and so it's cut off by the bed, right? So this is all I can see. And I was shocked. Like, nobody tells you this can happen. Now, to be fair, there are waves of love coming off them at me. So there was no way to be afraid, right? I mean, who could be afraid of that much love? And I was so shocked, my mind went blank, which, like, my mind doesn't go blank. And and after a while, I kind of thought to myself, oh, I hear this little voice. We're staring at each other. This little voice goes, "Who are you?" Very sweet little voice. And again, and eventually I thought, I should ask them something. God, what do I ask them? What do I ask them? And the only thing that occurred to me was, where are you from? Better would have been, how'd you get here? But oh well. So I think intentionally to them, where are you from? And this answer comes back, Arcturus, like with that kind of change in intonation. And I went, oh, okay. Now, again, not interested in astronomy. I didn't know what this was. I mean, it is possible I'd heard the word somewhere along the way, but I have no conscious recall of that. So the next morning when Kosta called, I'm telling them the story. I'm like, Arcturus, is that a place?
And I said, oh, yeah, that's astronomy, 101. It's a hyper red giant in the constellation. And I know I'm mispronouncing this, Butes. But you can see it with the naked eye. It's a place, it's a star, it's well known. It's a thing, Arcturus. And so
when I finished the story, I said, because he had already said he wanted to go do this again. I'm like, yeah, next year I'm coming with you.
It's personal now.
It's personal now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on interviews like this, whenever we talk and tell this story, because, this is our origin story, I always want to thank our Arcturian friends, wherever they are, because had they not shown up literally in our bedroom about 20 feet from where we're sitting today, to Hollis, who was not expecting that. Again, this was perfect because she was not someone, unlike many of us, who wanted to have an experience, wanted to see star people, wanted to see UFOs. She didn't care. And yet they showed up. So this was really valid that she wasn't making this up. She wasn't wishful thinking. She wasn't hallucinating or anything. So I want to thank them wherever they are for, I think what they did was following my energy every day, talking to her because, we were connected. They must have followed her, that energy link from Mount Shasta back to the San Francisco Bay Area here.
To our bedroom.
To our bedroom. And that's why they were saying, who are you? This guy's like projecting out to this place, and who are you? Speak up. So that's our origin story. We've been together with this topic ever since then.
I'm going to add something. I don't usually say this, but for anybody who knows who Sergeant Clifford Stone was, he was a U.S. Army sergeant who he technically had a job as a clerk, but his real job was to go to crash sites and do retrievals. And we had the privilege of spending some time with him at a tiny little conference like 10 years ago in Roswell. And he heard my story and he said, oh, I have something to show you. I brought a painting that somebody else did of these beings. He said, we call those type 2 grays. Okay. He goes, but I have a painting that somebody else did of these beings. And I brought it. And I didn't know why I brought it. I guess I brought it for you. And he brought a painting that another woman who had met these beings had done. It had way more detail than I saw. So, I mean, but to me, the fact that 2 other people had he knew who they were and he had a painting that somebody else had done is validation for me.
And Clifford Stone's one of those sweet people, that was so grounded and so selfless that, he wasn't making this up. I mean, here he brings this painting. He didn't know why he brought it till he met us. So that gave us a lot of validation for Hollis that she wasn't alone in encountering these beings. And if you know anything about Clifford Stone's story, he was the first person on many crash retrieval sites in different parts of the world. If I recall correctly, he even had a manual that was given to him so that sadly, when there were bodies to be recovered from the crashes, he could flip through it and say, oh, that's a type 2 grave from some place, from this place or that place. They'd already been cataloged, and
Wow.
that was probably in the
Yeah.
50s.
Oh, well, I don't know when the manual was done, but I think
Yeah.
he said there were something like, and I could have the number wrong, but something like 58 different types cataloged
At that point.
at that point.
Yeah. So that just made our journey even kind of more interesting because he's someone that was very believable. He was part of the army and part of the whole apparatus that has been doing the cover up basically for 75 years around this topic, even though Clifford Stone, even helped one, if you read his book, helped one of these beings escape from confinement there. So Clifford was a good guy inside of the whole apparatus that was a cover-up. So that's our origin story. That week that I spent at Mount Shasta, where the experience between us happened and the Arcturians, I had 2 other encounters that were up close and personal that changed my life again and made me want to organize people across the planet. We got the internet to do what I had just done really easily with a group of 40 people. I mean, we just sat in chairs. It was cold. We bundled up and we did group meditation. We did a visualization, sent our high vibes out, and we got results time after time. So I decided to try to be a cheerleader for a community out there that I knew was there and tell them you can do what myself and our friends did. And like I said, I had 2 other experiences right in that same area that just totally solidified it. And here we are now, 17 years later, still involved with the People's Disclosure Movement.
Well, how did you start that movement?
In 2010, about 4 years after this foundational experience that we both had in 2006, I had been doing for those 4 years, from 2006 to 2010, I'd been going out on the internet and contacting people about this CE5, these close encounters of the fifth kind protocols, forming teams and urging people to create a network, a worldwide network, like to do this all together. Hollis was contacted by star beings, whom I call our star friends, in 2010. She's a really good channel, clairvoyant, clairaudient, etc. But they came to her and allowed me to speak to them directly. So what I did was I asked them, what can I do to help you? I don't see the big picture. I don't know how many civilizations are out there. I don't know what your plans are for approaching humanity, et cetera, but I want to do something to help out, give me some little task or something. Well, right away, they said, yeah, we want you to form as many contact teams as possible, ET contact, in as many places as possible, as quickly as possible. I said, wow, well, I love organizing. I did it when I was in my youth, and I war and civil rights movements and all this. This is another movement. So it's the People's Disclosure Movement. And I realized that star people, the ETs, were asking us to grow it. And I said, well, how does this work? And their answer was, well, as more human beings give us permission to appear for them in cities all over the world, and we will do that. They literally said we will show up in more cities if the interest is there from peaceful humans. As they do that, that will give us even more permission once they've seen us and maybe communicated. That'll give us more permission to show up in more places where even more humans will see us, thereby giving us more permission to show up in more places. And I understood that meant that this is the birth of an organic movement. It was nothing official, not from the government, but again, from we the people. And that's the People's Disclosure Movement. And we've been having hundreds, if not thousands, of contacts since 2010 within this movement, building the momentum. Oh, and by the way, I asked our star friends, what's the end game for all this? And they said, one day there will be a tipping point reached where so many people around the world will have seen us and want to interact with us and believe that we're for real, that moving forward from that tipping point, there will be no government or no institutional authority that will ever again be able to stop this movement. And that's the way we take our power back, is because we're not waiting for some government disclosure. It'd be nice if that happened, and there are people I know and respect who are working on that side of it. But in the meanwhile, because we've been doing this people's disclosure, I was told we were supposed to work towards a tipping point. I asked them, when will that be?
Yeah.
And their answer was basically, it's up to human free will. You all can make it fast or slow. It depends on how active you're going to be, how seriously you take this. A few years ago, I was told that 2019, now it's been 4 years, we're in 2023. In 2019, we reached that tipping point. That's what our star friends have said. And so that means that we own the future now, because it's in our hands. They gave me an image of our movement being a snowball that's rolling downhill that can't be stopped. They literally said our movement can't be stopped now. We own the future, and they say the movement has exceeded every expectation they had of it. So for people listening out there that do this, thank you. You all are part of this. It's not something I did. It's something we all did together, teaching our friends, doing the work, and achieving the tipping point. So that's why we own the future right now, and we're not victims of the past cover-up. That's the People's Disclosure Movement.
2 questions. 1, why do they need our permission? And 2, when are they going to land in Walmart parking lots so we can all see them?
Depends on if Walmart's having a sale on. No, never. I don't know. Do you want to address
No,
that?
go for it.
Okay. There is a certain point where the Prime Directive, if you're a fan of Star Trek and science fiction, you've heard that term, Prime Directive, which means that the advanced society approaching the species of another planet is not allowed to interfere with the growth, whether the inhabitants of that planet blow themselves up or behave well and do wonderful things. The Prime Directive says you don't interfere. You may come, you may observe, and that's it. That's why they have, our star friends have gone by that Prime Directive. Now, they also said that since 2019, where we reached the tipping point, for them, for the groups that we're in contact with, and they're all benevolent groups. I won't speak to the others because I don't have experience if there's any negative ones or whatnot, but the massive numbers of those who are working with folks like us have said that the Prime Directive has been removed for them. And so they're able to engage more fully with human activities of ours than they were before. I don't use the word interfere or intervene because all those have negative connotations. The idea is that they're co-creating. They're basically saying, hey, it's your planet, dudes. If you want to do good works and save it, approach us. We'll meet you halfway. We'll teach you what we know. We'll mentor. We're like elder brothers, sisters, and cousins. They literally said we're family, and we would like you to turn to us and work together with us, because now we're allowed, with the removal of the Prime Directive, to work more fully with you. And to that end, they've told us in no uncertain terms, in more ways than one and more times than one, that they won't allow a nuclear war to happen. They've told us they know how to stop it. If someone starts the chain reaction, they know how to stop it, and they will. Now, anything short of that, our bad behavior can still do a lot of damage. Look what's going on in Europe, in the Middle East, and other hotspots on the planet. We still have a lot of work to do. But as far as the nuclear war, one thing I want to tell people is, you can believe it or not, but the information we've gotten is that a nuclear conflagration will be interrupted, will be stopped. And we got to work on the rest of learning how to get along with each other and not fighting with other kinds of weapons.
Well, while we're on the topic of war, what have they said about What's going on in Gaza?
Plenty. I don't know if you want to speak some
No,
to this. No,
no,
because
no,
it,
you
okay.
do.
Um, we were communicated by an ET collective, many nations, many star civilizations, I should say, that call themselves the Watchers. I don't believe they wanted to give us any other title or names or whatever, because we human beings get hooked on, oh, these are Arcturians, these are Syrians, these are Pleiadians, and that's all fine and well. But I think for the purposes of them coming to communicate with us in this context about that war, they just said, we're the Watchers. You can think of us as a crisis management team. Our job is to keep things from getting out of control anywhere on Earth that the crises may be happening. So 3, maybe 4 days after October 7th, our ET Let's Talk group was having a retreat in Southern California in the Joshua Tree National Park area. And one of our members received this communication from the Watchers, from this ET collective. And I will give the URL in a minute for where people can go and actually read the transcript. But the gist of it is that the Watchers are there. They're on the job trying to contain the war there. They say there's a black dome of negative energy that surrounds that whole area, which we can understand in terms of vibration. It's denser energy that is filled with hatred, fear, violence. I mean, you name it. You can see it on TV every night. And they say that's a black dome, and they, the ET Collective, are working not only in physical ways, but in, I guess, extra-dimensional energetic ways to keep that dome from getting bigger and swallowing up the whole region, which, if that were to happen, would draw in the superpowers, the US, the USSR, who knows, China. So they're trying to contain, and in their message, they asked for our help. They basically said, it's your planet, but if you step forward and send us your love, your energy, we know what to do with the energy you send us. Don't focus on this black
Right.
dome directly. That's above your pay grade. That's not going to go well. But send the energy to us. And they had specific a list of things to do. And they will take that energy and apply it in the ways they know how with their technology to keep the containment and hopefully somehow to neutralize it over time. And that's all I know about it. They were not being political about it, except to say that both sides have a long history of, warring with each other. And it's not one side or the other that really has the high ground here. But they didn't go into the details because their message was a humanitarian one. They see the suffering, and they're asking for our help to make sure that suffering doesn't spread, so that we can at least have a chance to bring some kind of peace out of this thing without it getting any bigger. So again, it's a humanitarian mission, and people can go to tinyurl.com. That's tinyurl.com/THE the hyphen Watchers, WATCHERS hyphen message, MESSAGE. And the entire transcript with their instructions will be there. I urge people to translate that message, send it out to your networks. It can't hurt. They're basically saying, we just need your help. You have more power than you realize if you all would organize and step up. So that's what I'm asking people to do. If that message resonates with you at tinyurl.com/the Watchers message with hyphens, then spread it and abide by it if you can. It'll be a big help.
Do you think that most ETs are interdimensional beings, not within our realm here, and they just kind of pop in and then pop back out?
I do. Years ago, some group, and I don't know who they are, showed me in meditation how they travel. And this is a little hard to describe. And if you don't have video, you won't get it at all. But they kind of figure out where they want to go, a group of them. And again, I can see this in my mind, but I can't do it well. They kind of swirl and collapse in on themselves as a group. They travel interdimensionally that way. Like that's the in quotes craft. It's not really one. It's just their consciousness. They go wherever they had agreed to go and unmush, and then they're there.
Uncollapse.
Uncollapse. Yeah, I don't know how to say it. Like there's a very clear picture in my mind, but I cannot adequately describe it.
And that's just one group. It's we know there must be thousands of species and civilizations who have their own unique origin places and methods. So the answer is it's all of the above. When people say, are they physical? Are they interdimensional? Are they angels? Are they not? It's all of the above. We don't have all the answers, but I do know that in the ET Let's Talk community, where I correspond with literally thousands of people, I hear all of that, so rather than pin it down to one thing, no, the universe is a lot more diverse than we even know. It's a continuum of consciousness from many places.
Do you think that the lights that you see during your CE5 events, they're most of the time in another dimension and they pop in and you see them and then they go back their dimension?
I don't know for sure, but I wouldn't be surprised. All that we see, though, are the physical manifestations that our eyes can capture, right? So we can be experts on what did I see, how did it behave. But as far as describing, unless, of course, we have some telepathic message, or there's some people like Hollis who have extrasensory abilities.
Yeah. What I will say is one night we were out in the field and somebody lent me a very good pair of night vision binoculars, like really high end. And what other people saw as a light blinking on and off, like while it was moving, kind of
zigzagging.
Okay, but I didn't see the zigzag. I was watching it in these night vision binoculars, and it was a clear one of those dome-shaped craft with a light on what was probably the flat part of the dome-shaped craft always has a flat part. The light was on one part of the flat part, and the craft was rotating. And so what looked to people without the aid that I had, it looked like it was blinking to them, but it was very clearly not blinking. It was a craft that was rotating. When it faced away, it was out, and it would kind of come on as it came towards us, come to a bright part. The craft was traveling the whole time. So that's what it looked like, but that wasn't what it actually was. But that was one craft. Like, if you've seen one craft, you've seen one craft.
Well, I haven't seen one yet, so I just got to get to my first one.
We'd be glad to help you.
Yeah.
We'll talk offline.
Next time I'm up in California, I need to come over and you can call in some. I think that would be great.
Yeah.
I think it would be too.
So what is the People's Love Alliance then?
That also is a movement that not many people have heard of. And it's just a label that really includes networks within networks within networks. Let me back up and say that to answer your question about when they're going to land in the Walmart parking lot, that relates to the People's Love Alliance. We don't know that. Anybody that sets a date is really putting themselves out there. And I've seen so many of those dates come and go that I just have an expectation now that we'll just do what we can to bring whatever date that might be in Walmart or some other city or some other country to bring it closer, because that much is under our control. The People's Love Alliance is all about that. I mean, imagine from their point of view, they may be, there are many civilizations, they're full of, at worst, they're neutral, most of them, or at best, they're full of love for us and are here out of concern that we might mess it up here. And they want us to have a breakthrough, not a breakdown. So they're here with immense love and light and can be contacted to help out. The Love Alliance is the Earth people's part, where the mass media won't reflect that to anybody. And that's why it's important that we become our own media. When you turn on the news, those of you who have televisions or by some other means, even on the internet, wherever, a lot of it is negative. It's fear, it's separation. And if you feed on a lot of that daily, man, you're one depressed puppy. You don't have inspiration. You want to slit your wrists, and I'm not being flip about that. There are people I talk to who say, why should I go on? Look at the mess our world is in. My answer is there are hundreds of millions of really good-hearted people, men and women of goodwill out there doing little, medium, and large acts of love and compassion that in their aggregate are really building a golden age for us. Now, you might say, oh, yeah, where am I going to see it? Well, you're not going to see it on the evening news, at least in the United States. I can't speak a lot about other countries because I'm kind of US centric here. But in my community, I hear from other parts of the world, and you can go on the internet and find organizations that have tens of millions of people who really are working for the betterment of the earth. Someday there will be a media that broadcasts the news of them all over, and it will lift all of us up and inspire us. But until we solve a lot of our problems, why would star people land on the White House lawn or in Walmart or in Trafalgar Square or wherever? Because these days, we humans are willing to kill each other for a difference in skin color and nothing else, although there's plenty else that people come up with. How would our star people visitors be perceived if their skin is blue, or they have an extra eye, or an extra appendage, or whatever? Though they may be full of love, the way that Hollis experienced, our population is not completely yet ready not to call them demons, or to say that we're all on drugs about this and making it up, et cetera, et cetera. So it's kind of like a fractured world at the moment. And the job of the Love Alliance is for all of us just to kind of come back to the core of who we are as humans, treat each other better, find ways to get along and build instead of destroy each other. And that will create a better field of welcome and loving energy for the star people to approach us and to have a successful approach, a successful landing, a successful coming out party. And again, I don't know when that might be, but I do know that we are responsible for our part, which is to get along better as human beings. And again, the Love Alliance has hundreds of millions of people. Avaaz.org, avaaz.org, is a place you can find 70 million of them. People like us in every country of the planet who are powering changes in different countries, who are getting together in campaigns to stop bad things from happening and to create good things. Again, people power. In the same way that the People's Disclosure Movement is we the people doing our own disclosure and not waiting for the government, the People's Love Alliance is also we the people in our hundreds of millions doing all the work that really is building a golden age, but nobody is showing it to you unless we start talking about it. And that's one reason I talk about it now is you can go online, you can look for good news that's happening in many places on the internet.
For those people out there who have zero interest in sci-fi, UFOs, or anything of this topic, why is it important for them to know about ET contact?
Well, Hollis is a good example, remember?
Well, to me, I guess it's partly about hope, and about there's a wider reality than we're taught as humans. And so, once you realize there are other beings that have all kinds of capabilities that humans don't have, I think or most humans don't have, it's to me like a motivation, or at the very least, like opening the door to, oh, hey, look what we could develop. And I mean that in the most positive of ways.
And on a practical level, everything Hollis says, I believe too. We the people, we need hope. We need inspiration. It's real easy, again, because of the mass media, to take a look at what's going in the world that they're reflecting to us and to lose all hope and not want to get out of bed. But if like we have, and many people we know have contacted loving cosmic beings who are telling us, doesn't have to be that way. There's a lot of goodness in humanity. Look at us. We made it out to the stars. We didn't destroy ourselves. You too had the opportunity to do that. So that's why it's important. They can be those mentors. They can be an elder brother, sister, or cousin, which is what they say they are, to whom we can turn and say, hey, throw me a bone here. Give me something positive to look for. And they respond to that. So we have a cosmic support group in the millions. And let me just say another thing. On a practical level, the technologies our star friends have, like free energy, the ability to likely solve or do away with many of the diseases that beset us on Earth, and on and on. They're willing to share, but they need to come forward to a humanity that's not going to weaponize what they give us. And that's a problem right now, that we would do that. So they have to work in ones and twos. We know people who've had healings, many of them from encounters with ET beings, dramatic healings, reversing stage 4 cancer, like that, and on and on. So we know these gifts are there, and my God, why wouldn't we want to make a connection with beings who have those technologies so that we don't have to watch a loved one suffer and die, or a loved one sent out to war to take the oil under someone else's sand that we think we need to run our planet, when in fact, with the 0 point energy, free energy, there wouldn't be a need for such wars. That kind of energy would be infinite, non-polluting, and free for all of us. And it would remake the economic situation of the planet. It could do away with hunger, with an end to hunger, an end to the wars, an end to global pollution, and on and on and on. There's just so many benefits on a practical level that would result from this contact with them. And they're willing to do it, but they have to be careful about it, because some of us always want to create toys that will destroy someone else.
Before we started recording, Hollis had a great story of being with her mother just before she transitioned, and hoping that you can tell my audience that story.
Sure. I can't believe I'm doing this publicly. Okay. So my mom was on hospice at home. She, they set up a hospital bed in a bedroom, and she was there, and she kept staring. They had told me she had somewhere between 3 and 7 days to live. So, I knew from people who were experienced in the field that this was what was happening, and her time was near. She kept staring at a place like where the junction of the wall and the ceiling was, like one particular spot. And I thought, wow, I wonder if, a portal's going to open up there. Maybe she can already sort of see it, and that's where she's going to leave through. So I thought, well, maybe I can help her. Maybe I can make it easier. So I pull up a chair next to the bed, and I sit down, and I go into meditation, and I kind of focus my attention there. And I'm kind of, I've never done this before. I'm not a medium. I don't do this stuff. I thought, well, but, I'll focus on that place. Maybe I can help open the portal, and I'm kind of playing around with it. And then this very loud male voice off to my left says, "This is not your job." Okay. And then he went on in a nicer tone of voice to explain that, we have beings who do this. And, just chill. It's okay. They'll show up when it's her time. And in fact, they did. I saw some, again, translucent white. They were actually less solid than the ET beings that I had met. And they were kind of amorphous. There was just kind of like a long and narrow changeable shape. But I saw a few of them. I couldn't tell you, somewhere between 3 and 5. Right around the time Mom left. So anyway.
Did you ever see those ETs that visited you in your bedroom again?
I haven't seen them, but at least once we were out in the field, and we were asking for contact, and I felt a being who was the right size standing to my left. And I can feel energetically with my hands. Most people can. In fact, pretty much everybody can. I would say, 80 or 90% of people can feel energy fields with their hands with just a little practice. No, I mean, like 5 minutes worth of practice. And so I asked the group, and there were, 17 or 18 people there that night, to come over. Like, I asked the being if it would be okay if people came and kind of, felt
Touched
its
you.
energy fields. And it said, sure. And so one at a time they came over, and everybody could feel the being's
The
fields.
contours.
Kind of the contours of its field. So I don't know if that was it physically, like, well, it wasn't physically, like, it wasn't solid. So but I think they were related. I don't know. So that, and they've been around like that, not physically, a few times that was the only time I had other people feel them, but I've been able to feel them a couple times, but I haven't actually seen them again.
Also, one anecdote that you may have forgotten, we were at a friend's wedding reception that they were holding in the friend's backyard. And
That was fun.
and there was music there, and it was a happy thing, right? A joyous, and people were dancing out there with the music going on. Hollis and I were standing off to the side, just watching everybody, having a good time. And I think she heard a voice, which we believe was those Arcturian friends who were there, obviously, apparently, observing all this through her eyes or whatever means.
Well,
and what did they
do that.
say? They
They
said,
said these humans can be so sweet. And they were. I mean, at that time they were. And I should say, when I don't want to say when I'm bored. Sometimes when I'm bored, but sometimes when I see something really cool, like a beautiful sunset or whatever, I'll ask my guides, and I may have some ET ones, I don't know, but I'll offer to my guides, look through my eyes, hear through my ears, so they can enjoy it too. And this was one of those times.
Do you think the Greys are an evolved version of us, or some type of biological robot?
Well, I don't know that a robot could send love. So I suspect that they are biological, some kind of, sentient being. But that's all I know.
and I don't have any more information along those lines, except to speak what I've heard other people say, that there may be many different kinds of grays. I mean, imagine there isn't one kind of a human being. There are different ethnicities and colors, shapes, and forms. We have a lot of variety. Why wouldn't that be possible with what we could just call a gray? That's one word that might encompass many varieties. I certainly believe that what, as Hollis was just saying, what she experienced was you can maybe fake sincerity, but you cannot fake love. She's a very sensitive person who's protected by her spiritual guides. And if they and she are feeling love, then those beings that visited her, at least those type 2 grays, were biological and spiritual, whatever, and able to emanate love. A robot, of which there may be, life forms that are created, to be just that, may not be able to do that. It can mimic things, but not the real thing.
So are you saying that there are no malevolent ETs, or just none that you've encountered?
None that we've encountered. It's a big universe, and yeah, I do believe there are lower forms of intentions and energies, even evil, you might say, that may have had and maybe still have an ability to influence, human behavior. In the same way that there may be interdimensional entities on the lower astral planes and stuff that also cause problems. But the point is that we don't attract that. We are always advised to build the highest vibration possible. They cannot penetrate love. And if you're in a group or by yourself and you are using whatever spiritual practice you have, but if it includes, asking for protection from your favorite avatar or group of avatars or whatever, and bringing in that love as a shield, that is what you need. And that's why I believe we've had experiences with benevolent beings.
Always ask for protection.
Always.
And always ask for the highest available energies to come to you.
And I know a lot of people want to get off on the reptilians and all that, and
not my experience.
Not my experience. Again, our star friends say, concentrate on the future and what you want. Yes, you have been victims of bad energies in the past. You know, just look at our government, a cover-up of this whole topic, not to mention other things that may have happened to people. They don't deny that that has happened, but they say you can't keep feeding that. You can't stay in victimhood. They urge us, again, to connect with them and create the future that we want. You know, we got 24 hours in a day. We probably have 16 hours of those, most of us, when we're active. What are we doing with that energy, with our thoughts, with our emotions? We're advised to really visualize the world we want, feel it, and find other people like ourselves, our tribe, no matter how large, and let's all keep doing that together, and we will create that. We'll reach a tipping point with that as well, in the way that we reach the tipping point with the people's disclosure. So that's what I urge people out there, is concentrate on that positive. There is no power in the universe anywhere that can overcome love. Anywhere.
If somebody wants to join the people's disclosure, how do they do so?
Oh, that's easy. You can join for free at etletstalk.com. That's ETLETSTALK.com. Again, it's free, and you'll receive announcements of our monthly virtual get-togethers near the time of the new moon, which is the darkest part of the sky, that allows people who, you don't have to, but who go out in nature, and they'll have a dark sky to be able to see the light show that can be up there. But by no means are people limited to that. You can make contact in your living room, your office, and lots of other places, as long as it's safe for you to do that. So you'll receive announcements about our monthly gatherings, where our community comes together at least for 24 hours. And we've been doing that every month since 2010, as well as all times in between. There are literally thousands of groups now making this contact, and that's what created our snowball rolling downhill and what created our tipping point. And you can start with etletstalk.com. And I thank everyone in advance for coming forward to there.
Do you guys have a YouTube channel and a Facebook page?
The Facebook page is CE5 UFO Sirius etletstalk.com. I threw in some keywords there, a little SEO, but yeah, it's a longer string. Maybe we could put that up on a visual here, or at least for the people who are able to see this.
I'll put a link to your Facebook page and your website in the description.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So what is the next phase of things that you're going to be doing on social platforms?
I absolutely want to reach more young people, members of what is called Gen Z, 18 years old to 30 years old. And of course, there's a generation behind them, and there's probably a label for them too that I'm not aware of yet, but they will come along too. The young people in that group, from what I've read, do see a world in turmoil that we older people are leaving them. And there may be a lack of enthusiasm for that world. There may be despair and a lack of inspiration. What I want to tell young people like that is the future is in your hands. We who are older than you and have started the People's Disclosure Movement want to pass the torch to you. You, the younger generation, already are aware through media that we're not alone in the stars. We're not alone on Earth. And so more of you, when you learn about etletstalk.com and the other many networks within the People's Disclosure Movement who are making contact, you can do the same and do it for the same reasons we are, which is we're creating the future. And these civilizations are here to help us, to give us hope. And I want to pass that hope along to younger people and to let them know they don't have you all don't have to be passive and accept what's being thrown at you, that stuff hitting the fan, but instead you can turn around, turn that fan off, and create sunshine. You have the capability, you have the numbers, and you are open-minded. The generation I grew up with, oh my God, you could not mention experiences like what we've been talking about here without losing your job, losing a marriage, getting institutionalized, your reputation being ruined. Fast forward a few decades to where we are now, and it's way more okay, at least in the US. Again, I can't speak as much for other countries, but it's way more okay to talk about a belief in cosmic beings. And damn, they're here. They want to talk. And CE5 protocols, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, are there for the younger generation to do it. It costs you nothing. It's a lawn chair in your backyard. It's just your living room sofa or couch, and you can make the contact and lend your energy and your vision to building the golden age that we're working on right now moving forward. So I want to leave everyone with that hope that all is not lost. It is in our hands if we take the action instead of sitting down and fighting for it in a good way, fighting the good fight, good trouble. And so I invite people to come to etletstalk.com and spread the news that we are creating that future, and a golden age is really what waits for us eventually.
On your website, is there a protocol to use to make contact yourself in your backyard?
Yes, there's 7 steps that I've listed there. And also when people join as a free member at etletstalk.com, I send them a package of information to get them started and a link on the website to get them started. And one of those pieces of information is the 7-step protocol. I will say that this is a foundational protocol that will work as long as you're sincere. You minimize or try to eliminate any fear you might have, and use it. But I do know that people customize it. So I hear this from groups all the time. They go, well, I wanted to add some classical music that's beautiful, that relaxes me, puts me in a good space. That's great. So other people always have something they want to add. And the major thing is your sincerity, your open heart, whatever gets you in that relaxed space by yourself or with others when doing this contact raises your vibe into love, so that your field of love and goodwill and good intentions will be detected by our cosmic friends, and they will meet us halfway that way. So yeah, there's instructions there as well as other information that you can go to. You could find other groups around you. There's a map of people who've placed themselves on it saying, hey, I'm here. Is there anyone in my neighborhood that wants to join? So that's part of the information I send you as well, because we human beings are social, right? I hear this every day. Hi, I live in this place. Is there anyone near me? Because no one around me is interested in this. And I like to help people out, tell them to go to the map or link them up with someone I already know that's in their city. So this is all about building that network, finding you some company, building a community where you can share your story, and people will share it with you and respect it. I like to say that each of us has a jigsaw, a piece of a puzzle with our experiences. We don't know everything. We haven't experienced everything, but we're in a community where lots of people have experienced things we haven't. When we all talk together and share information, I feel like we're putting together the bigger puzzle. We're sharing that and seeing that bigger picture that one of us is really incapable of really seeing alone. So it's community. Come on down.
After watching this podcast, people may want to reach out to you guys and ask questions. If you're open to that, should they do that through your website?
They can contact me at Kosta at etletstalk.com. That's Kosta at etletstalk.com. And if people have...
They should, my email's a little messed up right now, so they need to email to Kosta if they want to have questions for me, and he'll forward it.
Yeah, that's good.
All right. Well, before we wrap it up, can you leave us with one last positive message?
It's not just about the lights in the sky, it's about the love on the ground. Do you have anything?
That was good.
And I always like to say, in Lakesh, which means I am another you. This is really a spiritual journey for all of us to grow in love and in harmony and create peace on earth. So let's end the separation between us all and realize we really all are one.
When you were giving your message, I was curious if you both thought of it at the same time, if it was something telepathic or not.
You know,
We don't-
this sort of thing we've been doing for a long time, so I wouldn't necessarily call it that.
Oh,
Like,
well.
yeah, did I know what he was going to say? Yeah, probably, but I've heard him do it, so
Yeah,
that doesn't count.
she's heard me do this on other
It
interviews.
doesn't count.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Well, guys,
Sorry.
thank you so much again for being my guest. I really appreciate you, and I wish you massive success with the disclosure movement.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much appreciated.
And thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.